Voila.
We're here.
Hola, Leona. Hi, honey. It's going to be such an interesting topic as we go through all the webs. And so it's 6 o'clock, 6:01 just now. We're going to dig right in and get to it. Before I do so, we are going to go ahead and first introduce Miss Valerick. For those of you that have heard of her, some of you know her. I see some of you without here, and some of you have never heard of her. We're going to get to know a little bit about her bio, just know who is our guest. So, Valerick Molinary is an award-winning dancer, a producer, and an instructor from San Juan, Puerto Rico. 15 years ago, she moved all the way to Miami to pursue her passion for dance. And throughout her career, she's worn many hats. She's been the touring artist, she's been the showgirl, she's been the event producer and the dance studio owner. And a lot of her work just really centers on one mission if you kind of were to delegate it down really deeply. And it's cultivating meaningful relationships between dancers and their audience. We're going to talk about that shortly. Through her productions, especially like most notably The Love Affair, if this is a very popular brand that happens almost every year in Miami, and her latest co-production, which is the Bellydance Stories, which she does with Alexandra Molina. She continues to create spaces that celebrate artistry, storytelling, and community. We'll be touching, I think, naturally upon these things too. It's very much at the center of what she does. Her vision is to bring greater visibility to emerging and underrepresented artists in the belly dance world, while also engaging new audiences through innovative multimedia storytelling, etc. And she believes that when dancers connect authentically with their audience, they can create a really positive impact in their communities. And this is something that I think is very key with today's discussion. Hola, Vale. So, whew, what a bio. And she's very funny.
It's
So,
been a long time too.
yes. As always, the goal of Let's Talk is to talk about literally the hard stuff, the stuff that people aren't like, yay, let me share that. Or it just
Mhm.
doesn't really come out easily. It's not something you can really put on stage often. That is what this show is all about. And I'd love to start a little bit with, before we dig into the topic itself, just a little bit about what we bring to the conversation, a little bit of your background with how you immigrated here. Tell the people a little bit of like what you have you're gonna be bringing to this conversation.
Okay, so I did came here 15 years ago, and I moved to the United States of America, specifically to Miami, to pursue a dance career.
Mhm.
Uh, and that came with a lot of challenges, language barriers, because I barely speak English at a time.
Mhm.
Uh, and then also like starting from scratch. Like in Puerto Rico, I started dancing when I was 8 years old.
Mhm.
So since a very young age, my life revolved around a dance studio. So that also used to be like my childcare. After I finished school, I would go to the dance studio.
Mhm.
And therefore, when I decided to start belly dancing when I was a teenager, I want to say that unconsciously I started developing my audience, right?
Mhm.
Because at a very young age, I was participating in all these dance classes in the dance studio. But then I also started to perform in my high school
In your
at
high
some
school.
some
Oh,
theater plays.
that's so cute.
And it was interesting because now that I reflect and I look back, like I was 15 years old performing for hundreds of students in high
Mhm.
school.
Mhm.
Uh, and I started getting popular by precisely being the belly dancer. Okay. Then when I
Very
went to
cute.
college, I was actually doing the same thing, participating in any community event in the same colleges. And then kind of like people continue to see me dancing. So when I came and I participated in the Miami Bellydance Convention in 2009, I
Mhm.
did had already developed like this audience in Puerto Rico. Like I had 60 students
Yeah, it
and
was
I
a
was
big.
only 23 years old.
Hmm.
So then when I started to compete in the international circuit, I did a couple of competitions in the US. Um, then I was exposing myself to a totally new audience for me. And it was interesting because when people saw my work on the stage, they were very fascinated. And I felt that I was very well received in the American audience, but I was totally new in Miami. So one of
Hmm.
my biggest struggles was that in PR, I had this entire audience. I used to perform in a restaurant that all type of celebrities will come Friday and
Mm.
Saturday. I used to get hired to perform in the Caribbean several times a month. Uh, I did have a very successful dance career. Let's just say that. So then when I transferred and I moved here, I didn't have anyone in class, yes,
Yeah.
all the way from scratch. And it was like a very weird moment in my life because it was like I was on the wave of the online. So a couple of my videos went viral on YouTube.
Mm.
So I was getting some type of online notoriety that gave me a lot of invitations to teach internationally, right? So I was teaching internationally. I was getting requests to go and teach in Canada, but my classes in Miami were completely empty. Like nobody was coming to my classes.
Such a such a dichotomy to be like,
Humongous.
and it could look such a certain way, right? You always think that when you see people teaching in the circuit internationally, oh my gosh, they must have like this full packed studio, but because of the circumstance, you just freaking moved there. You don't have that community yet.
Exactly, exactly.
Woo.
So I knew that there was a problem there because if I had to depend constantly on my audience outside, it meant that I was going to have a very unstable type of life.
Mhm.
And I needed it to create also some type of steady income also because I just moved to a city that I was financially more demanding than my country.
Mhm.
And I did work very hard to develop my own audience. And that was my main thing. That's the first thing that I did.
Now, define audience for we have an array of dancers from very, very beginning. They just heard about belly dance that join, and those that have been around
Uh-huh.
forever. What is an audience to you for clarity for everyone?
For the audience, for me,
Mhm.
means that you need to have a person. Audience is made of persons, of real people that could witness your art. And at the same time, what you want to create with your audience is to create a relationship with them for them to connect with your art.
Yes.
Okay, so basically, the audience is going to be your mirror, or audience is going to allow us to grow artistically. The audience are going to be those witnesses that are entering to our life, right? And that they are going to participate also on the artistic process that you're engaging in.
Mm-hmm.
So
A
that's how
lot
I
of
will
force.
define the audience, like these witnesses that are participating also in your process.
It's a very collective process, I would
It
say,
is a very collective
audiences.
process.
Mm-hmm.
And then, therefore, when you share your art with your audience, then that's when your creative process, that's how you're mentioning, becomes a collective experience.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why it's so important for dancers, right? Even for the new ones, I just want to say that you start building your audience even with the same dance friends and peers that you meet in class. Because let's say that you get invited to that first hafla, the
Hmm.
first audience that you're gonna have actually is gonna be the peers that you have in class that are gonna come
Hmm.
and see you and support you.
Yeah, and their families that you see after dance class picking them up and
Yes, yes.
okay, beautiful. When I think about audiences, it's a very there's a many types and there's many ways to gain them and there's many it's not like oh like when you think about like followers, right? Like we had mentioned
Yes.
this before. It's not like you just it's numbers. Like you're saying it's the relationship that is much deeper, just so everything's very clear, because so much of what we're going to chat about is about that, whether you're just starting and getting the community, you just moved here, or you've been there forever and now you want to engage with others in a more meaningful way. So put a bow on that one. Now, building an audience, because it's shared, it's a collectivistic type of thing. Is it, are there times where it's beneficial to have an audience? Are there times where it's not beneficial to have an audience?
Well, depend. I want to say that in your artistic process, you gotta be very mindful on how do you play with the importance of the audience in your creative process. Okay. So if you are going to be doing art, constantly trying to please or on the demands of your audience, then you're going to definitely limit yourself.
Mm-hmm.
So for an artist to create a good piece of work, right, it really requires you to be somehow secluded and on your own and on isolation first
Mm-hmm.
in order for you to understand what do you want to share, and then you just throw it to the audience.
The message.
um
Mm-hmm.
but then once you throw it to the audience too, you gotta also understand that the work is gonna continue evolving with it, right? That how the audience receive your work also is gonna probably have an impact on the way that you see it. They're gonna have other readings of the work,
Mm-hmm.
and that's the beautiful thing, right? That you may create something having an idea in mind, and then when you throw it to the audience, it can continue evolving and living in very different ways. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, and that's why I say you gotta be mindful, right? Because you don't wanna be a slave of your audience. Uh, but you wanna be responsible with your audience too, right?
Yes,
You
that's
want to be
the
very
word.
responsible and you want to
Yes.
show some respect for your audience. So you got to make sure that your message is going to be understood. You got to make sure that you rehearse. You got to make sure that you're doing your homework in order for that relationship actually to grow and create
Mm-hmm.
an impact.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Let's give some examples of what this can look like in different scenarios and spaces. Let's say we're both event producers. In the
Mhm.
event space, when we see other of our friends that are sponsors or across the world, and in the event space with organizers, for example, tell me about some things you've seen on the topic of audience building or lack thereof sometimes.
This is my favorite rant.
Let's go.
This is my favorite rant. Okay, so events are great moments that we have to re-energize the audience,
Mhm.
to build new audience, right? And to keep the relationship with our audiences. Okay, so events are really powerful in that sense. Okay,
Mhm.
but one of the things that I am noticing, and this is an observation that I have because of my many years of experience, right? When I used to go to events when I was 15 years old, they were very well attended with a
Mhm.
lot of people versus now, 20 years later, I do notice that we definitely in the case of South Florida, um, we have less attendees in the event. So one of my concerns is that I keep seeing more events happening, more events on the schedules, but then I wonder if we have enough audience
Yes.
to fill out all these events. And my
Mm-hmm.
concern is also on our responsibility also as practitioners of this dance is that how are we taking care of this audience in all these events? Because one of the advantages and disadvantages that we have nowadays with the dance is that it's very niche, which
But
means that we are kind of like limited, but then because it's so niche, also people tend to really feel an obligation to participate
mm-hmm.
because there's only these opportunities, right? But something that I am noticing with event producing and shows and specifically is that we need to curate our shows in a certain way that we can get people more engaged with our art form rather than making them feel tired, right? And
Mm-hmm.
I think one of the great examples for any of us that has a male partner, right, is that we bring them to one show and they don't want to come to the next one.
That's so true. That happens a lot.
They get very saturated, right? Because we don't have a lot of events, because a lot of those stage performances are very democratic, because you pay to perform, and then it's just overwhelming. Honestly, a dance show should last maximum 90 minutes if you don't want your audience to feel overwhelmed and saturated. So what happens? We continue doing these 20 slots shows,
Marathons.
marathons of 2 hours, which this is why also producers have to be very specific about the venues in which you are uh, making your audience witness this, right? Because if you're doing a 2 hour show in a theater, like it better be the
Top
show.
notch.
Yeah,
Because
because
they're gonna
people
be
have
hungry.
they don't have they don't have a way to move. You're just sitting down. You don't have versus if you have a venue with drinks and food where people are talking in a table, definitely you can definitely do a 2 hour show and like people are gonna actually feel more hyped up.
Mm-hmm.
So this is very important for me because we gotta really think about not only the audience of dancers that we are, it's like the family members or friends that are coming to the show. Do I want them to be able to presence something that is actually excellent, that leaves them with a sense of curiosity that they want to come next time with more of their friends to the show? You see what I'm saying? So I think that sometimes we have too many shows and then many times it's the same dancers, and I'm not saying that the dancers cannot bring any type of variety, but I feel sometimes I get tired too because I do take breaks. Like there's no way I can give my 100% if I'm dancing in a different theater every week, right?
Yeah.
Like I need time to create. I need time to create
Art.
something powerful. And I think that strategy, which I have to say that 15, 20 years ago, when I used to go to Babylon Breeze in Orlando by Andrea, you gotta back then when I was 50 years old that I came for the first time to Orlando to one event, you gotta audition to be part of the show. The f-
Yes.
the first time that I went to the week-longs in New York, organized by Nurhan and Yusri Sharif, which at the time were like top figures, you gotta come to the workshop. Yusri will have to see you in class and then he will decide if you were quality for the
Right.
show.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and it was very difficult to get that approval. Um, and I'm gonna tell you more.
Yeah, this is such a. I'm like, as you're going, I'm like, oh my God, wait, hold on. Yes, these are.
Es que es verdad. It's true.
It
It's
is.
true.
It is.
Okay.
And there's
So
spaces
how do
for
you
like all these different things. Like there's a Hafla for other like levels, and there's gala shows,
exactly?
and there's theater shows, and there's spaces and places. It's not like about levelism or anything like that. It's
No,
just there's certain audiences are expecting when they're paying a ticket to see a certain caliber of performance. And
exactly.
if the artist is not at that caliber performance, it's okay. We've all been there. This is normal. We start like this, I mean, might go like this,
Exactly.
but we start,
Exactly.
like this. And there are other spaces that are usually like free or like really low cost, and that's like the incubation. Like I call it incubators, but I don't know. It's just my mind. So it
But
brings
they're
up a lot of
important.
that.
They're very important too.
Yes, I
They're
still
very
attend.
important.
I get inspired. See, I'm like, you remember, you're like, oh, this is fresh. This is so raw. Like it has its special reminiscing place to it,
Yes.
you know?
Yes.
But as the audience member, you have to know exactly what to expect with each thing. So you're not.
Exactly. Exactly. And then something that I have noticed while I was traveling, right? That I
Mhm.
had the opportunity to go to places like Argentina, that I got the opportunity to also host. I have host like three dancers from Brazil. Like I'm obsessed with
Mhm.
the Brazilian community.
Soraya, Esmeralda, yeah.
Yes. And something that I have talked a lot of with dancers, specifically from these two locations, is like the dancers set the level so high that you have 400 people going to an event in Argentina.
They're huge.
Like, because it was Saida, it was Amir, people saw a certain level of performer that's what really re-energized the entire audience and practitioners coming to class. Same thing happened with Brazil. Brazil has so many great dancers. So when you have people that witness an audience that witness that level, they are gonna come to class.
Mhm.
They are gonna come to the shows. So it's also our responsibility as event producers to understand that the way we curate or shows an event could have a huge impact on the audiences that we're all sharing. And then
Mhm.
we are collectively growing, because that's something that I also mentioned telling you, is like we all participate in this, you know, the new dancer that is taking classes, that is going back to work, telling people that she's taking classes, she's building and like spreading the I call it the gospel of Bellydance with her peers for them to come to us. Same thing as you doing let's talk Bellydance, you know. So we're all collectively working all the time, consciously and unconsciously, on building audience. But how do we treat that audience? How do we, work with that relationship is also something that we have to be very mindful about it.
Mhm. It's probably a whole other episode, but just the collaborative nature, even of like communicating together about what event date are you thinking of doing? Let's not do it all at the same freaking week or like right next to each other. Like that is another, I feel like similar related, but it could be its own thing.
Yeah, I've been very vocal about this because one of my things is that most of the time, because it's so niche, we are sharing the audience. So if I
Mhm.
invite to a show the same dancers that you invite into your production, right? And we
Mhm.
both have the same production on the same month. They could be totally different productions, but you as a producer, you are counting with the audience of that dancer to sell tickets for your show. But
Mhm.
you can only stretch people into a certain way. They're gonna have to, their audience is gonna pick one of the places to go.
Yeah, it's a whole
So
thing.
it's a whole thing.
Now let's shift it out of the event production side. And
Yes,
let's talk about more of the audience building when you're starting out. You're trying to, create it. And there was this story you were telling me about like the mall, like you used to go perform at the malls, to build your audience. And I thought it was so cute. Can you tell me more about this
yes.
and our listeners?
Well, I started building my audience outside social media. And this
Hmm.
is something that I keep doing nowadays. It's like, yes,
Same.
I have my social media, but I do my network in person. And I feel sometimes it's even more powerful and stronger. So when I started in Puerto Rico, I used to perform in this mall every weekend with my peers and my students. And it was just like a time for us to promote the classes because, of course, Puerto Rico is a very small
Island.
country,
Yeah.
tiny island. So you just gotta go to the places to find the people. We don't do it online. You just go and show up. So we will go every Saturday and Sunday to do a one
Wow.
hour show, have one of us spreading the flyers, right? And many, many times we will get new people, at least one. But one by one, we will start building our
Every
classes.
week, every week.
And
Okay.
another work that I did also a lot, especially when I was very young, was this thing about passing flyers. I will mark on a map the residential areas close to my dance studios,
Okay.
and I will go physically to these areas and put flyers in all the cars.
Oh, like we realtors do. Okay. Gotcha.
Exactly. I
Okay.
did that. I did that.
Good for
I
you.
did it when I first came here to Miami. I used to take 2 or 3 hours per week to do my workout passing flyers. I would find a school close to it. Okay, this week is this street, this week is the other one.
Hmm.
But I will hunt for people.
I love it. Grassroots style. Yep.
Yes, yes. And those very humble opportunities like dancing with the mall will give me access to general audience that were outside of my niche community. And I think for newbies, for new dancers, if I had the opportunity to do everything over again, I would have put more effort on finding audience outside the belly dance circuit.
Yeah, I see you're doing that a lot now, more recently.
I do, I do, I do
The
it. And
cross kind of
yes,
promotion,
yes,
which is fun.
yes,
It makes sense with health, fitness sector, etc.
exactly.
Hmm.
And you meet wonderful people, and then you're also like, if nobody has brought belly dance, let's say, to that community, or there, like they receive you uh, in a very warm way. I have my student Leticia Mateo, that is actually the cousin of my boyfriend. That's how I met my
Oh,
husband.
cute.
That she came to Miami from Spain, started taking bachata classes,
Hmm.
and next thing you know, she was getting hired by the salsa studio to perform in their holiday events.
Cool.
And then she got access to an entire entertainment world that I had no idea it existed inside the salsa circuit.
Mm.
So there's a lot of ways in which a dancer can build her audience a new relationship with new audiences.
Yes, it's like a fountain that there's like many fountains. It doesn't have to be the one
Exactly.
fountain. It's you can be very independent.
You could be. And sometimes I hear a lot of dancers, they get very frustrated with their dance community
Mm.
because they feel it's scary, like whatever. Create your own one.
Hmm.
Like you don't need, if you feel very unsatisfied participating in this convention, or this event, you don't have to do it. Go and
Mm-hmm.
dance in other places where you actually feel more welcome and celebrated. But don't let that,
Stop
uh,
and go
yeah, stop you
rogue.
from
Yeah.
growing. Like if you feel, and that's another great topic, right? What is the right audience for you?
Hmm. Let's talk about that a little bit before we go into some growth
It's
pains.
very important. What is the
That's a
right
big one.
audience for
Big
you? You
one.
can build an audience, but what audience? Like putting a
Yes.
lot of sexy videos, what type of audience are you gonna get with that?
Yes,
Let's
that's something
say
we talk about a lot behind the scenes. Some of my colleagues and I will be
it's a
like,
very, yeah,
you
it's a
can be,
very
I mean,
trendy topic.
I love sexiness. I think do what you do. But like you said, if you're looking to be taken seriously and you're just kind of like putting it out there, all the things out there, the audience you're building is probably going to be the opposite sex and probably the ones that are damning you like dick pics. Like it happens all the time, even if you don't even try to do anything like that. You hear this. So it's kind of like you have to be freaking very clear with what you're trying to, who
Exactly.
you're trying to
And
connect
this
with.
is something that I tend to do for my marketing, which is very interesting. It's like I present a certain image of Valerick to promote my classes that it's very different from the Valerick to promote my shows.
The performer. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so usually when it comes to my pictures to promote my shows, I'm gonna be the devil's advocate. They're really more directed to the male gaze.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, versus when I'm putting the my flyers to teach classes, I am more like friendly, poppy. It's more for the female gaze. So this is something that dancers, they have to be very conscious and aware about. Okay, what is the type of message that I'm trying to convey with my performances? What is my pedagogy? Okay. And who's going to be the right people for me to teach about this?
Yeah. I think it's so applicable because you hear a lot of frustrations. I talk with a lot of people, and one of the things I hear often, particularly, I think across the board, it's not even an age thing, is this frustration with they're wanting to gain followers and like live in the social media world, which is not real. You
It's
know, it's
not real, so boring too.
yeah. And it's like one of those things where if you didn't grow up with it, my generation and those before, we didn't grow up with it. We don't care. Thank goodness we didn't grow up with it. My gosh, I would have been so in trouble. Pero, um, but those that do grow up with it, a lot of our students, they have a lot of anxiety, frustration, what is the word? Confidence. That's a whole other topic. But when it comes to finding your audience, is it better to have a close knit group of friends that you know in person that have your back no matter what are your biggest fans, or is it better to have a million that don't really know you and don't really care?
Yeah.
They just might go, "You go, girl," as a comment. Like, how real is that? It's not
Yeah.
tangible. It's not felt. Things to think about. You know.
That is very interesting too, because I feel that the word audience right now tends to be used a lot and attached completely only to social media,
The digital. Mm-hmm.
the digital world. And that is something very interesting because a mistake that I noticed working with other people. I remember I was partnering with somebody to do an event, and she told me, "Oh, we gotta invite this dancer because she has this many followers." And I'm
I've heard
like,
that too.
that
Mm-hmm.
doesn't mean they're gonna pay for
Mm-hmm.
her. You see what I'm saying? And that all has to do with the relationship that dancer has with those followers. That's what you're saying. Like you could have followers, yeah, that are seeing you, they cheer to you, but are they gonna buy your product? Are they gonna buy your workshop? Are
Mm-hmm.
they gonna hire you? I don't know. That's a totally different relationship that you gotta work with, and that's why I'm a firm believer of live in-person interactions. So whenever I see the content of a dancer online, um, whenever I see dancers that are working very well at building new audiences, like I have hosted people like Janelle Isis from New York. I hosted Alia Mohammed from California. And these two dancers are not part of the Bellydance American circuit. Well, now Janelle is participating
Now
more.
she is.
But at the moment, when I host her, I was seeing her grow, and I'm like, this girl is doing a lot for us. Because she's getting exposure in big media. And same thing with Alia, that she was also working with Dita Von Teese. She was working in also some type of multimedia projects. So she also was developing and making Oriental dance be very attractive to a totally new audience.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm always very interested in supporting this type of dancers
Mm-hmm.
because I feel they do a lot for all of us.
Mm-hmm. Yes, they give a
um,
lot.
they give a lot, yes, and they are very important key figures that they're gonna come in and out. That they do have a certain talent that gives them a bigger visibility, and that's when people get like really excited about this art form.
Mm-hmm. The energy. Let's talk
And
about where we messed up. Put it out there. Where, tell me a time where you're like, oh, I made a boo-boo. Or maybe I thought this was going to come out this way, then it didn't. Or I thought it would look like this and it didn't. Or like, I know, I mean, I just keep thinking back to like dichotomy of like, you were teaching like everywhere. I remember when I met you. Yeah, a few years after that, like you were teaching. I remember internationally. Super happy for you. Super cool to see. Not realizing at all until this conversation that yeah, it makes freaking sense. You moved here. You don't have students. You
yeah,
went from a bunch of students to zero, and I think that's always a scare that I think any established dancer has when you're like, shit, I have to move maybe because of my husband, my kid, a different job, or whatever, family. That's like such a big fear. But tell me about any mistakes maybe within that maybe were made as you were trying to build an audience, anything you went through.
well, when I came to Miami, I came with a contract with a dance studio. And
Mm-hmm.
also that dance studio used to produce a convention, so I had an exclusivity contract with both of them. And that event had very bad relationship with another event,
Mm.
and they always had this big drama
Tension.
between both events, which it was very interesting to me because the conflict that they had with each other is what motivate each other to work super hard on both events, and both events were amazing. You see what I'm saying? But I want to say that having someone limiting my performing opportunities, especially in this type of
What do you mean?
gangish, tribalish things that happens where you're like, I don't want to perform in that convention because I don't want to disrespect my boss at the time.
I see.
Uh, that was a huge mistake because the other place, I felt their type of artists were more into the direction that I was going with my dance career.
Okay.
Um, and it was interesting because I would present my work in one event and sign contracts in the other event.
Mm.
Many
Interesting.
times, yes. Many times I would perform in this event, but I will get hired with the audience of the other event.
So interesting.
Yeah. And for me, that was like, but I should be performing in both. Why do I have to limit myself when I can do two totally different performances. And I want to say that, yeah, like letting this type of political drama between people interfere in the way I make choices of where am I gonna present my work, uh, it's a very limited idea. And it really limits the dancer too.
Yeah,
Because
that sounds
the,
tough.
the more, let's say if you're a studio owner, right? Or an event producer, the
Mm-hmm.
more the artists that you are bringing expose themselves to different places, the more audience you're going to have next time you bring them.
Mm-hmm.
So the fact that I was going to the other event, it was never going to do anything negative to the other person. Actually, it was going to be even more convenient because if people like my work, then they would want to come to me. And I want to say, like, letting those type of situations interfere, I think it was something that I don't recommend anybody to really like follow. I think we have grown also a lot from that type of
Back
tribal
in the day.
mentality.
Mm-hmm.
And also limiting my performances to only the belly dance circuit, I think was one of my biggest mistakes for a certain period of time. Like I felt this obligation that I had to go to every belly dance event in
Yeah.
my community and participate in all of them. And they are great. And now I am more selective.
Mm-hmm.
Like I decide, okay, I'm gonna participate in this event, in this event, in this. I'm more strategic because I do want to participate in other events too
Mm-hmm.
outside my belly dance niche. So having that keeping that priority that I have to have the same level of pickiness and also decision of where do I perform, not to only limit it to the belly dance world. I think it's something that I felt for a certain type of period it was a mistake.
I gotcha. That makes sense. Yeah. Because it works for a while if that's like your niche and your genre, but as your season changes or your focus changes or you're feeling like you need energy with something renewed, you naturally have to look out. Because if you look in, it's the same community of people. You can't grow after a certain point. You have to
You
get out
can,
and get stimulated in a different way.
you can. And now with motherhood, also, like for me, that was like a very epiphany moment that I had. Like, oh my God, now I am able to access an entire audience
A new
now
one.
with a prenatal belly dance. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So that is something that I am really interested. All of this to say that through your seasons also that your interest in finding different type of audiences is going to change too,
Yep.
and that is fascinating too. And
Mm-hmm.
it's I want to say that during my entire career, just like you mentioned in the beginning, like being very strategic to continue building my own audience has
Mm-hmm.
always been my number one priority with a lot of the efforts that I make.
Mm-hmm.
From putting information on Instagram, from showing up to different events,
Mm-hmm.
to,
Live.
staying. Exactly. For example, I
Door to
teach
door.
in another dance studio every week. I used to rent studios, right?
Mm-hmm.
But then it was too expensive to rent the studios. And then I'm like, you know what? I'm gonna stay teaching regular classes here, and whoever wants to do something extra, they'll just have to do private. And I think it was the best idea because the studio have people that take Zumba, pole dancing, aerial,
Bunch of
all
stuff.
type of fitness classes that I am constantly exposing myself to a broad audience Tuesday and Thursdays.
Mm-hmm.
And anytime I do now a choreography course, it sells out in 24 hours because that place, Sexy Sassy Strong, gives
Oh,
me so
sexy.
much visibility that I've been able to grow, es- ¿cómo se dice? Exponencialmente. I've been able to grow,
Exponentially.
yes, a lot since I started working there.
Mhm. I love that. Yeah. You have to be strategic. You have to know what you want, though. I think a lot of the
Yes.
supplies, and again, I always think of all the different type of people who listen to us and all the phases that we go through, and you have to know what who you're trying to connect with and like why. And that alone is a journey, and that will change. Like I feel like every 5 years, some growth happens and like things change again, and like it's always evolving as you evolve. But a lot of this is very applicable if you have a really clear vision to begin with. It helps a lot.
Very important, Jennifer.
Hmm.
And I think that's the number one thing that dancers need to really ask themselves every day. Who do I want to connect with? Why do I want to connect with? How does my art is gonna help with this?
Hmm.
Um, and once you have a clear idea of that, you're gonna understand much better what are the efforts that you gotta do to get to that audience, to that right audience for you.
There's something that came to mind, but it's on the same class, but I'll never forget. I went to a workshop with Esmeralda. I think it was the first time you brought her. I think it was the
Hmm.
first time.
2019.
And she said this one thing at the end of the workshop. It was, I'm gonna butcher it when I paraphrase it, but it was like, you do the dance, da 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 da. What do you give back? And I think that's something that you have to clearly have in this dance for, especially in the cultural context as well. It's like there's a lot of tick tick tick. Whether you're building an audience, it's not tick 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 tick. It's not like, oh, I want the audience because I want to sell this thing and like be like fucking Instagram fame. I don't know, whatever's cool nowadays. But it's what are you giving back so that it should be authentic. If it's not authentic,
Yes.
you're gonna burn out. It's not gonna last. And it's not. It's gonna be
Yes.
maybe successful. There's a lot of sex appeal, but then it's not gonna last.
Yes. And I love that you mentioned that also, Jennifer, because the audience and the type of audience you're also kind of like attracting
Mm.
can also tell you about the things that you are missing.
Yes.
And we in
Very
the
true.
American dance community, right? We have done a lot of not culturally sensible things, right?
Mhm.
And therefore, we don't have dancers of the culture or people of the culture participating in our events.
Mhm.
And if we're not reaching to that audience, something we are doing wrong.
Mhm. It's missing
And
the point.
yes, and I remember in the pandemic when we were having more conversations about events not necessarily having uh, enough racial representation
Mhm.
or not having dancers of the culture. That's one of those moments where I feel your audience is telling you that there's something here that is not connecting with them. It's
Mhm.
not creating that resonance. And when you're building an audience and you're establishing a relationship with your audience, you need that exchange.
Mhm.
And that is something that I find that very interesting and that I really feel it speaks volume about the way we have practiced this dance in this country. Um, and definitely something that we need to improve.
Yeah,
Uh,
there's some good things happening, which are really cool to see.
exactly.
Yeah,
Exactly.
lots of these conversations were so nice. We can go on and on about this, honestly, for
Yes.
hours, I feel.
It's a huge topic.
It's a big one. Um, how about we talk about maybe some ways, like, okay, we've talked about some of the problems, a little bit of the struggles. It's a struggle. Or it could be, but it's beautiful when you achieve it. So, what are some ways that people listening from all different phases, right? Maybe a little bit of for established, a little bit for the newer, a little bit for the people that are like, we don't even have a community where I live. Like, what are some
Uh-huh.
solutions in building audiences that are authentic and true to us as artists so that we build that collaborative environment and like symbiotic relationship that's so beautiful?
I think it's important to develop that sense of community. You know, audience and community is not the same thing. Your audience can be upgraded to community. So in the audience, people are witnessing, they're participating by their presence, but in community, they are co-creating with you, right?
Mhm.
So if we assume that role in our communities more seriously, and we are collectively thinking about building and taking care of our audience, I think we can definitely make better choices in many ways. Okay. And it's a very difficult thing to do because when you think as a community, it's not going to be all about me, 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 me. I want to do this project now because it's me, and like, it's not going to be all about me, 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 me. It's going to be a little bit more uncomfortable because maybe you want to do something in a certain time, but another colleague tells you, I don't think this is going to work, blah, blah, blah. So it's difficult to make people have some type of, ¿cómo se dice? Consenso, like for them to agree.
Consensus.
Yes, it's difficult, but I do think that when dancers do it, and I want to talk about my experience here in Miami, I feel we have like a certain, what's what I call it? We have a certain agreement, I want to say, between Bea, that is doing Goddess production, Amara with Arabian Voyage, uh, Love Affair,
Mhm.
Valiant Stories, and whatchamacallit, Mystic Night that recently happened
Ah,
with. And like the solidarity that we have for each other on these events
so
is
nice.
freaking beautiful. Yeah. Yeah. And I feel I work for those events like they're my events.
Mhm.
And that's the sense of community, right? And and I think that we need to really reach out and beyond the Bellydance circuit.
Mhm.
I think the Bellydance circuit is a little limited, but we can find different ways in which we can go outside this little niche that we have created, which is beautiful, but it's a very small world. And I always like the experiences or that can take us a little bit more mainstream. I think they are really important. Um, and and yeah, I want to say that try to cultivate relationships with other artists, try to cultivate relationship with other scenes, try to cultivate relationship with other topic of interest that you may have in your life. Like follow really that path. If you're a dancer that are into yoga too, go and continue into that path. Go into the yoga studios, offer them Bellydance classes, offer them to perform in your yoga holiday party. And
Mhm.
basically, if you're a realtor, we have a couple of colleagues that are nurses, right? That medical field. Tell your colleagues, offer a class for your colleagues that are working so hard. Like I do have a couple of friends that are dancers and nurses. Like that's an entire world of people that you have there.
Mhm.
So building audience is also about a very natural way also of you extending. your your dance and stretch it out to different scenarios that go all the way from the real scenario to the real scenario in real life.
Hmm. It's a lifelong mission.
It's a lifelong mission. And what I want to say to finish is like, for me, building an audience has given me so much independence to work creatively in a very different way of what I was working, let's say, on my first year that I got here to Miami. So when I got
Mm-hmm.
here to Miami, that I was under the umbrella of a studio and a brand. I had to pass everything through that umbrella and go through that approval and make sure it would fit. But once you start building your own audience, you actually have more freedom to be more playful in whatever direction that you want to take. I feel it also gives you a certain level of financial independence,
Mm-hmm.
because
More
if you,
choices.
exactly, if you are have a strong relationship with your audience, and then you want to experiment with certain things and you want to do a workshop, and if people already have that trust in you, they can do it. And a certain period of my life, I was very interested in burlesque,
I remember.
and I was a
Mm-hmm.
belly to apps at the moment. And I started reading, I started studying, I started training on it. And I taught a couple of classes because in that studio, I had cultivated a very interesting group of mature dancers.
Mm-hmm.
And those ladies were coming to me like crazy. Okay. And one of the things that I love about my classes was that I will incentivate them to be sexy in class.
Mm.
So one day I decided to do a burlesque pajama party,
Mm-hmm.
which it was something
A
like
while ago.
really, yeah, but totally out of the box. Like that's not really like what it was me as a belly dancer. It was more like a ladies' event where they would have to come in lingerie, and I would have like private burlesque performances. Okay. Jennifer, that was one of my most successful events ever.
I heard of that. Ariel told me about it.
It was so much fun. Okay. And that was something that I had this fantasy that I wanted it to create like this girl bedroom, and I wanted it my mature students to feel confident for them to play and like to be sexy.
Mm-hmm.
Girl, those mature ladies came dressed like they were gonna work in the strip club here in
I love
Miami.
it.
It was
They
like
were
they were, I
they
was with a
understood the
corset.
assignment.
No, no, no. I was with a corset, like very pin up, whatever, but still PG-13. No, they came with pasties only.
I love it.
Like it was wild. Uh, and because I have developed such a strong connection with them, I'm like, I knew that I'm like my ladies, these women have went through so much in life, divorces,
Mm-hmm.
terrible kids. I need to give them something different. And having my own audience gave me like the independence and the space for me to create outside of my belly dance bubble.
Mm-hmm.
uh and I feel those events were freaking amazing. I don't do them anymore because of course I was super involved with other things, and then I got the studio. But at the moment, I want to say that I was one of those projects that I had, that because I had my own audience,
It went
like
well.
it went well. I didn't suffer them. And that's why I also don't suffer with my love affair at this moment. Like it took me 10 years to build an audience solid for me to have it come every year. But that comes with great sense of responsibility, and also developing that relationship
Mm-hmm.
with your audience, like listen to them, caring for them,
Mm-hmm.
caring for them. And yeah, that's why I want dancers to really take very seriously about building an audience, because we collectively benefit from it, but it also gives you a sense of independence, uh, that it can make your work more sustainable too.
Mm-hmm. I think a lot of, I don't know why the words like franchise versus independent business owner just come a lot when you kind of explain this. It's if that helps anyone. Just a
Yeah,
different way I was like, yeah, franchise, you have a built-in audience for that thing versus, and you can have successful franchises. Don't get me wrong, like they're good. But then you have the other side where it's your own independent business and you can make many different choices. It's not under like an umbrella, like you said. So
like an umbrella. Yeah.
that just kept like popping in my brain. So you kept explaining, like, yep.
Yes.
Oh my God, it's already 7. No. So I'm gonna invite everyone before we keep going. If you have any questions, comments, we're gonna read them here in a couple minutes. So please ask them in the chat or the commentary now in the live. Be happy to make sure we look through them, answer some questions. So do that now. Don't wait. I guess to wrap it up, solutions, you listed quite a few of them. Eh, if you had to sum it up, like a closing remark about audience building, some of the grit, some of the beauty of it all, how would you what do you want someone to take away as like the message? Because it's the only message they got out of it today. What's the one thing you want them to take away after this conversation?
Okay. I want them to take a few things. Very important that if you are a person that wants to seriously pursue a dance career, building an audience has to be on your number top one thing to do the entire time. Every post, every performance, everything that you say, do is an opportunity to get people to have and connect with your art. Okay. And this is very, 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 very important. Okay. Building an audience also is what is going to give us longevity in this dance,
Mm-hmm.
right? Here in Miami, I inherit the audience that Tamalin Dalal built years ago,
Mm-hmm.
and the previous teachers and the previous teachers and the previous teachers. So all the work that dancers previous to me has done, like Virginia, Bojenka, all of those dancers, they build an incredible audience that still comes to the love affair today, still participate in our events. So building an audience, I want to say it's kind of like this generation type of cycle that continue growing and evolving, but we also have to pay attention on how are we taking care of that audience. um, and then in the world that we're living right now economically, I'm a huge fan of the micro business of the dancer. Valerick Molinary is a micro business. I am the dancer, instructor, producer. It's all on me. Uh, and you do want to gain a certain level of independence for you to have a sustainable dance career by building your audience. You don't want to depend on the students of other instructors to have your event sold out. Like you really don't wanna, you want them to participate because
Of course.
you wanna connect with them. But I've been a person, Jennifer, that every project I have done it through my connection with my audience. I haven't even taken one government funding to do any of my events. And
Mm-hmm.
I'm very proud of that because um that's how I operate. I like the difficult route. Like I rather have my own people rather than waiting for some funding to create my work, you know? If I
Yeah.
have people participating on my projects, it means that I'm creating an impact.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and that we call it in Spanish poder de convocatoria. I don't know how to translate that, but that power of attracting people and attracting my audience to either participate in my projects or whatever I'm doing, I feel has given me the quality of life that I have nowadays.
Mm-hmm.
That, you know, right now I'm entering into this period of being a mother, excited to engage with a new audience, excited to connect with new circles of women, and state of mind because I do have my projects and they sustain by themselves.
Mm-hmm.
So that I would say will be my closing arguments. It's that level of independence. It's very important for artists nowadays.
Mm-hmm. It's a form of risk management too.
Oh, totally.
I'm like very sorry. I'm always like such a nerd. I'm like
Totally.
risk management, franchises, business.
True, totally risk management.
Mm.
Totally,
You,
totally, totally.
you
I love
saw a
it.
whole thing in COVID where if your audience was only students, a lot of people closed down. Or if it was only gigs, a lot of people stopped teaching the
Hmm.
circuit. It was wild. So keep that in
Yes.
mind, y'all.
Yes, I like that risk management thing that you're mentioning. I really like that way of putting it. Because yeah, you also want to have a relationship with your audience that it's outside the social media.
Oh yeah. I wish more. I'm so happy like to hear other persons say that. I feel like sometimes
It's
I feel like I
very,
have this alone. I just had to talk about this last week with another dancer that kind of disagrees, and it's okay. But the real world is probably more real, you know?
yes, yes,
Something to always
yes,
remember, the humans
yes,
behind it all.
yes,
Let's
totally.
see. Any comments? Any questions? I see comments. Oh, love you guys. Hola. You see. Thank you all for being here. You guys are wonderful. Such good information. Ah, hola, Safran. The D pics comment. Yes, I know the scroll. I try not to curse, but sometimes it comes out. I love this point. You have to know what you want in order to build that audience. Yeah, that must have been in that point. No questions? Okay.
Okay, then we were clear.
Yeah, great advice. Thank you. Thank you, Valerie. Thank you. If you
Thank
guys
you,
want to
Jennifer.
continue following this lovely lady, there's a couple ways you can do so that are really easy. You can go follow her on Instagram. It's Valerick Molinary altogether.
All together.
At Valerick Molinary. And you'll see it when I post the show. You'll see it in the description. So don't be shy. Go follow her. She's always doing some really cool stuff. Or you can email her, creativehips@gmail.com. Nice and easy. So
Mm-hmm.
thank you, thank you, thank you. I
Thank you,
appreciate your time.
Jennifer.
It's such an interesting and unique topic that I love how you kind of vocalized it in a way I had never heard before. So it was super pumped to hear you and thank you. You delivered. It was so cool to chat about it
Thank
with
you, thank you, thank you, thank you, Jennifer. I think these conversations are very valuable for
you.
our audience.
If everyone, thank you for joining us. We appreciate your energy, your commentary, and let's keep talking after. Bye, guys.